Gloria Allred, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, out of Canada, 9 dead in mass domestic violence killing. And first remains of Air Asia flight victims return to Indonesia. And out of Yemen, suicide bomber kills at least 33. And Gambian president returns home after apparent coup bid. And out of Russia, conviction of opposition leader sparks mass protest. Bahraini's protest detention of Shiite opposition leader. And UN rejects Palestinian resolution after U.S. and Israel maneuvering. And U.S. releases 5 Guantanamo terrorists to Kazakhstan. And out of Somalia, al-Shabaab intel chief confirmed killed in U.S. strike. And NYPD launches work stoppage to protest Mayor Bill de Blasio. And out of Idaho, 2-year-old kills mother at Walmart after finding gun in purse. And Harvard Law School found in violation of Title IX for mishandling sexual assault. GVTV News is broadcast in Grass Valley Television, division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, in Canada, 9 people were dead, including 2 children, in what authorities are called a mass episode of domestic violence. The murders of 8 people, followed by an apparent suicide of the suspect, marks the worst mass murder to hit Alberta's capital city of Edmonton. The victims were found in 2 separate homes, and the suspect, who had a lengthy criminal record, was later found dead in a restaurant. Edmonton Police Chief Rod Knecht spoke of the killings and said, "This series of events are not believed to be random acts, and there's no risk to the broader public, and these events do not appear to be gang-related, but rather tragic incidents of domestic violence." And in Indonesia, officials have confirmed bodies and debris found in the Java Sea off the coast of Borneo are from a passenger plane carrying 162 people, which went missing en route to Singapore. Several bodies have been recovered, and at least 2 have arrived back to Indonesia's city of Surabaya, where Air Asia flight departed from on Sunday. And in central Yemen, a suicide bomber has killed at least 33 people in a gathering of Shiite Houthi rebels. The governor of Ib province, which is controlled by the Houthis, has reported among those injured in the attack. And president of the West African nation of Gambia has returned home after an apparent coup plot while he was out of the country. President Yahya Jammeh says he remains in control of Gambia after a gun battle which reportedly threw the capital of Banjul into chaos. Alleged plotters, including a former army commandant, were killed. President Jammeh, who rose to power in a military coup in 1994, has faced at least 2 previous coup plots. He's also faced international criticism for his repression of LGBT people and political opponents. The failed coup was sparked fears of a crackdown. And out of Russia, it has seen the largest anti-government demonstrations in years after leading opponent of President Vladimir Putin was convicted of fraud. Alexei Navalny, a prominent blogger and lawyer, had given a suspended sentence, while his brother was sentenced to prison on what was supporters say as trumped-up charges. After his sentencing, Alexei Navalny broke house arrest to attend an anti-government rally, which he was detained and returned to his home. As many as 250 others arrested. Earlier, 18 protesters, including members of the feminist group Pussy Riot, were detained after spending the night near Moscow's Red Square. Washington State Department spokesperson Jeff Rathke condemned the sentencing of the Navalny brothers and said, "We are troubled by the guilty verdict handed down in the latest action against Alexei and Oleg Navalny. The decision is a disturbing development in our view, and it appeared to be designed to further punish and deter political activism. This appears to be another example of the Russian government's growing crackdown on independent voices." Bahraini forces have fired tear gas on protesters who gathered outside the home of a detained opposition leader, Sheikh Ali Salman, head of the main Shiite group opposed to the Bahrain's Sunni monarchy, was arrested on Sunday after leading a rally. The United Nations and European nations have criticized Salman's arrest. The UN human rights chief called for his immediate release. The Obama administration says it's looking into charges against Salman and has called for him to be treated equally under the law. Bahrain is a close U.S. ally and home to the Navy's Fifth Fleet. United Nations Security Council has rejected a resolution demanding an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories within 3 years. Following U.S. and Israeli pressure against it, the draft resolution also called for a peaceful solution between Israel and the sovereign Palestinian state within 12 months. Of the 15 members of the UN Security Council, only the United States and Australia voted against the measure, but it needed 9 votes to pass and only received 8 after Nigeria decided at the last minute to abstain from voting. The Guardian reports both U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Nigeria's President Goodluck Jonathan to ask him to oppose the measure. The United States has expected to veto the measure if it passed. The vote comes amidst widening support for Palestinian statehood, with the increasing number of European countries taking steps to recognize Palestine. U.S. Ambassador to the United States Samantha Power explained why the U.S. objected and said today's staged confrontation in the UN Security Council will not bring the parties closer to achieving a two-state solution. We voted against this resolution not because we are indifferent to the daily hardship or the security threats endured by Palestinians and Israelis, but because we know that those hardships will not cease and those threats will not subside until the parties reach a comprehensive settlement achieved through negotiations. The Obama administration has released 5 more terrorists from Gitmo. The prisoners included 2 men from Tunisia and 3 from Yemen and have been held for dozens of years without charges. They have been all sent to Kazakhstan for resettlement. Their release brings the total number of prisoners at Guantanamo to 127, as President Obama keeps chiseling down to try to close it before the end of his presidency. Somali officials have confirmed a U.S. airstrike killed the intelligence officer of the militant group Al-Shabaab. The Pentagon has announced the strike but did not identify the target. Somali officials say the leader, Abish Shakur Talil, was killed along with 2 other senior Al-Shabaab members. An earlier U.S. strike in September killed the leader of Al-Shabaab, sparking a deadly revenge attack on the African Union base in the Somalia capital of Mogadishu last week. New York City police officers have reportedly launched a virtual work stoppage in protest of Mayor Bill de Blasio's comments on racial profiling and police brutality. According to the New York Post, traffic tickets and summonses for minor offenses have dropped 94% over the same period last year after the murder of 2 police officers earlier this month. Parking violations dropped 92%. Drug arrests dropped 84%. In response to Post numbers, New York Times issued its second editorial in 2 days criticizing the NYPD's protest of de Blasio. The Times wrote, "What New Yorkers expect in a police department is simple. Don't violate the Constitution, don't kill unarmed people, and to that we can add, do your jobs," as the left wing keeps pressuring. In Hayden, Idaho, a 2-year-old boy was shot and killed his mother while a gun he found in her purse. Boy and his mother were shopping in Walmart and family members when the accident took place. The woman, who's later identified as 29-year-old Veronica Rutledge, reportedly had a permit to carry the concealed gun. The Obama administration has found Harvard Law School, President Obama's alma mater, supposedly, violated the federal statute Title IX by mishandling cases of sexual assault. U.S. Department of Education announced Harvard Law School had agreed to reform its policies and procedures following a 4-year probe which marked one of the department's longest-running investigations over sexual violence. In one case highlighted by the government, Harvard took over a year to make a final decision after a student issued a complaint, ultimately barring the alleged victim from participating in an appeal and then dismissing the case. Meanwhile, Harvard College remains under federal investigation for its response to sexual assault, as do scores of other colleges across the country. And that's it for the World News today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News. That's right, it's time for the police blotter. And pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Monday, 10:03 a.m. A woman reported locating her stolen cell phone with a phone locator app. It was returned to an address at 100 block of Race Street. A person said it had been found on East Main Street. The phone was recovered and returned to the owner. 10:43 a.m. a caller from 200 block of East Main Street reported a great deal of rubbish in a yard and drug activity. 1:32 p.m. a caller from 300 block of Bennett Street reported a woman with a bloody nose due to a physical fight with a man. 2:19 p.m. a caller from 300 block of Brunswick Road reported drug paraphernalia, which was collected for destruction. 12:58 p.m. a caller from 100 block of West McKnight Way reported a theft of a purse from an unlocked vehicle. And 7:11 p.m. a caller from 400 block of Colfax Avenue reported a man took car keys and fled the residence. And 8:15 p.m. a woman from 200 block of Dorsey Drive reported her son bit her. The situation was mediated. At 9:24 p.m. a woman from 300 block of Crown Point Circle reported two boys on bicycles riding their bikes into the front doors, shining a bright light into the building and taunting her. They were admonished. 10:34 p.m. caller from 600 block of Leduc Street reported a person throwing furniture, unplugging appliances, and screaming profanities. Person then threw a welcome mat off the porch and was throwing quarters around. It was a civil issue. 11:22 p.m. caller reported person now was sending harassing text messages. 11:06 p.m. hard for him to text with such big fingers. 11:06 p.m. a caller from 100 block of Alta Street reported a person knocking on the door upstairs for an hour with no response. The tenant had been sleeping. And Tuesday, 6:04 a.m., a caller from 100 block of Colfax Avenue reported a man with a ski mask had been seen leaving the back of a business. He could not be located. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Monday, 9:25 a.m., a caller from Orchard Springs Road reported $1,100 missing from an office. At 9:59 a.m., a caller from Highway 20 and Scotts Flat Road reported a tree into power lines. 11:23 a.m. a caller from 13,000 block of Oak Ridge Road reported bank fraud in the amount of $2,800. It was an international scam. 11:26 a.m. a caller from 13,000 block of Gas Canyon Road reported a stolen vehicle. 12:07 p.m. a caller from 11,000 block of Vinley Place reported theft of a backpack and other items. 1:38 p.m. a caller from 15,000 block of Cary Drive reported vandalism to a vehicle window. And 1:52 p.m. a caller from 11,000 block of Peaceful Valley Road reported rapid gunfire and explosions. Nothing was located. At 3 p.m. caller from 11,000 block of Red Wing Court reported a fraud. At 3:08 p.m. a caller from Wolf Creek Road reported a man ripped a phone out of a wall. And 4:35 p.m. a caller from 18,000 block of Penn Valley Drive reported a possible stolen iPad. 5:05 p.m. a caller from Pleasant Valley Road and Lake Wildwood Drive reported a vehicle drove off the road and took out all the mailboxes. And 7:46 p.m. a woman from 14,000 block of Highway 49 reported a moving van hit her vehicle and then took off. 7:46 p.m. a caller from 12,000 block of Scotts Valley Road reported a residential burglary. Tuesday, 1:23 a.m. Caller from Armstrong Road reported a man threatened bodily harm to people who broke a phone. He was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public and damaging a phone. In Nevada City Police Department on Monday, 10:05 a.m. a caller from 300 block of Old Donnyville Highway reported vandalism. And 9:45 p.m. caller from 200 block of Commercial Street reported a crazy, P and then 3 letters, was causing a disturbance, cooking food on a cook stove and yelling at people. He could not be located. 11:23 p.m. a caller reported he had returned, drove by and threw something. Extra patrols were requested. And Tuesday, 1:08 a.m. caller from 300 block of Broad Street reported a man with a knife making threats. He was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public. 4:14 a.m. a caller from 300 block of Sacramento Street reported a man lying by the side of a building. He was moving on. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, strong winds in western Nevada County bring power outages and fallen trees on homes. And Grass Valley man arrested on robbery charges. And gunfire in home leads to another man's arrest. In our first story, strong gusts of wind caused trees to topple onto the power lines, causing traffic hazards and power outages throughout western Nevada County. Tuesday, with trees even falling on and through houses in the area. We've had probably 6 trees go through houses, Nevada County Consolidated Fire District Battalion Chief Jim Smith said. There's quite a few power lines over the roads and in driveways. It's been across the entire county, and other departments are having similar issues. When you get these big wind events, it tends to take out a lot of power lines. Smith said the fire department received calls for dozens of incidents of trees falling on power lines and roadways Tuesday, when firefighters responded to areas and secure and scanned for fire hazards and helped clear roadways for potential traffic hazards. In the event of downed power lines, fire engines wait on scene until PG&E workers come to control any electrical issues. According to Grass Valley, California Highway Patrol spokesperson Greg Tassoni, only one incident in Alta Sierra off Henson Way, though, presented a cause for concern due to fire hazards. The one in Alta Sierra Drive brought down power lines and hit a propane tank and knocked a propane tank loose, he said. So the fire department was out there trying to get the propane shut off. It did some fire protection while they waited for PG&E. According to Tassoni, reports of fallen trees first began at 9:45 a.m. and consistently progressed through the early Tuesday evenings. Trees were reported to have fallen down into homes, located in Walker Drive in Grass Valley and Lake Wildwood in Penn Valley. Tassoni says typical high winds in the areas usually cause problems on highways and main roadways, but on Tuesday the area was major issues with trees falling on private properties, taking down built structures. I know one of my trees came down not too long ago, but not this storm. It's not uncommon for us to have these kinds of problems, Tassoni said. What happened is we have a decent amount of rain. It comes in the area which tends to saturate the ground a bit. Then it follows by a storm with strong winds, and we see many of these problems. The wind is high and the weight of the tree is up, and the ground is saturated enough from recent rains for the trees to come over more easily. According to BG&E spokesperson Nick Stimmel, up 1,500 Grass Valley residents experienced power outages due to Tuesday's winds, affecting customers in the area of Greenhorn Access Road, U-Bit Road, Walker Drive, and Alta Sierra Drive. With more widespread power outage, Nevada City saw more than 3,500 customers lose power, with power being restored in areas like Pioneer Park through the day. Stimmel said the majority of the outage were caused by trees and vegetation coming in contact with power lines due to strong winds or winds that blew power lines over. Stimmel said that no estimated restoration time for power outages affecting the area, but said that the PG&E team was preparing for outages in the area after closely following weather reports. Our crews are working as quickly as safely as possible to restore service to our customers, Stimmel said. We've been able to redeploy crews from our less impacted areas to higher impacted areas for where the storm is. We had the storm a couple weeks ago where we were able to restore our customers' safety and quickly within a day or so, but it varies. It really just depends on the cause. As of 5 p.m. Tuesday, PG&E reported the total of around 3,600 customers were still experiencing power outages in the area. Luckily, I wasn't one of them. A Grass Valley man was arrested and his son was being sought in connection with an assault with robbery Tuesday morning. The victim, who was not identified, called 911 at just about 11 a.m. to report being assaulted by two men at his residence, 600 block of Walsh Street, said Grass Valley Police Lieutenant Alex Gamelgard. Jeffrey Lee Rates, I think it is, R-A-E-T-Z, 48 years old, reportedly had threatened the victim via text message prior to the assault in a dispute over past wages. Rates and another man believed to be his son entered the victim's home, confronted him, Gamelgard said. The altercation began inside and then moved outside, at which point the son also became involved. The victim reportedly was struck by a fist, fell to the ground, and might have lost consciousness. The two men reportedly took $80 in cash from him and then left on foot, heading towards Pleasant Street. Rates was located at his residence, arrested on suspicion of robbery and criminal conspiracy. He was being held in lieu of a $100,000 bail. Police still searching for his son, Gamelgard said Tuesday evening. A 20-year-old man ended up in jail Saturday morning after an argument that reportedly ended with him firing a rifle multiple times inside a residence. A neighbor at Tadpole Creek Road off Highway 49 called 911 at a little after 12:30 a.m. to report that two men came to his house saying someone was trying to shoot their friend, according to dispatch reports. They were fearful for their lives, Nevada County Sheriff Keith Rowell said. Responding deputies located several men who directed them to a nearby residence where they found a man identified as Blakely Patrick Mitchell, pictured here, 20, on his knees in the driveway with his hands in the air, Rowell said. Mitchell reportedly told the deputies that there were a couple of guns behind him in the grass, 2 rifles, that were located and confiscated. According to witnesses, 4 people had been in the kitchen of the residence when an argument broke out, Rowell said. Mitchell reportedly shoved another man, then went into the bedroom, retrieved a rifle off the wall, loaded it, and fired several times in the air. He then held one rifle to a man's chest, Rowell said. When the victim brushed the rifle away, it went off, Rowell said, and added that no one was injured. Everyone in the residence then began fleeing, he said, with a couple jumping out of windows. Mitchell was arrested on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon and making criminal threats, and was being held in county jail in lieu of a $1 million bail. He has several arrests from this year, including an April misdemeanor charge for being drunk in public and a battery arrested from July, according to court records. And that's it for today. I hope you all had a Happy New Year and a good Christmas.